What's up, guys? My name's Curtis, and welcome to 5-Minute Finance, where I take personal finance topics and explain them to you in 5 minutes or less. I think it's pretty safe to say that just about everyone would be happy with an increased income. A higher income opens the doors to a lot of new possibilities. But something that I think people often forget is that a higher income doesn't instantly equate to a higher net worth. At the end of the day, I think everyone should try to increase their income if possible, but you should definitely be working toward increasing your net worth as well. The reason for this is fairly simple. You're eventually going to retire. If retirement means that you no longer have a steady inflow of money from your employment, that means that the money to fund your retirement needs to come from your savings and investments. So your net worth, not your current income, is what gives you the means to retire comfortably. So you could have a 6, maybe even a 7-figure income your entire life, but if you have nothing to show for it, you're never going to be able to retire. Oftentimes, people with very large incomes assume that they can just buy whatever they want, spend however much they want, and the rest will kind of take care of itself. But the reality is, even with a very large income, if you don't financially plan for your future, you could be in a world of hurt in your later years. So some of you may be thinking, how large of a net worth should I have? And that's a very good question. It depends both on your age as well as your income. In the book, The Millionaire Next Door, Dr. Thomas Stanley lays out a very simple formula that explains what your net worth should be given your current age and income. It goes like this. You take your age, multiply that by your current pre-tax income, and divide by 10. This is what your current net worth should be, not including any inherited money. He also defines a prodigious accumulator of wealth as somebody who has double that expected net worth number, and he defines under-accumulators of wealth, people who have less than half of that expected net worth given their current age and income. So using this formula, it's pretty easy to show how somebody with a large income could still fall behind someone with a smaller income in terms of wealth creation. For example, let's assume that we have two different people, each is 40 years old. Person 1 has an income of $50,000 and person 2 has an income of $250,000. Let's then assume each of them has a current net worth of $500,000. $500,000 is definitely impressive for a 40-year-old. But let's look at what each of their expected net worths should be based on their age and income. Person 1 doesn't have a massive income, so when we look at the formula, we'll see that their expected net worth, in order to put them in the average accumulator of wealth category, is $200,000. Person 2, however, has a very large income. So when we look at the formula for person 2, we see that their expected net worth is actually $1 million. Both are worth the exact same amount, but because of their differences in income, person 1 is actually considered a prodigious accumulator of wealth, while person 2 maybe wasn't as proactive when it came to finances and would be considered an under-accumulator of wealth. In my opinion, in this hypothetical scenario, the first person is actually in a much better financial position. The reason being that they're worth a good amount of money and they're used to living on a modest income, so retirement will be extremely comfortable for them once they reach that age. The second individual, although also worth a lot of money, is clearly used to a pretty expensive lifestyle. And it may be difficult for them to lower their standard of living enough to actually live off the amount of money that they have invested by the time they reach retirement. Now, you do have to be careful when you're using this formula. For example, it's really difficult to imagine somebody who's 20 years old already being worth twice their annual income. So I wouldn't recommend using this formula to actually gauge your ability to build wealth until maybe closer to 30 or even 40 years old. With that being said, this formula gives you really clear targets to aim for throughout your life. It can also be a really good wake-up call that maybe you need to save and invest a little bit more than you currently are. So, even though a large income can definitely help you build wealth a lot faster, at the end of the day, income and wealth are far from being the same thing. Building up a large net worth takes effort, planning, as well as time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it's definitely possible to build up a lot of wealth in a lifetime. If you guys enjoyed this video, it would really help me out if you gave it a thumbs up, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing.